What you looking for?
Wisdom?
You come to the wrong place.
Maybe. Same man wanted to fire a bullet from one rifle and have it match exactly to another. Could that be done?
Take a seat. Have a chair, son. If you could get a bullet that had been shot clean through the first rifle, could make the grooves match. Kind of thing ain't been done in a long time, though.
The bullet that was taken out of the Archbishop was completely mangled on impact. FBI match was metallurgical.
Thank you, Mother.
Yeah, but you couldn't guarantee that going in, so they had to be sure, and I still can't figure out how they could be.
Good coffee?
Yep.
Look on your left there, second shelf down. Red leather spine, written by a guy named Schofeld. Put it there 15 years ago. Don't figure it's moved since then. Yeah, paper patching, state of the art, 1870s Africa. Paper wrapped bullet, no metal on metal going down the barrel. Grooves would match. Paper unwinds at the muzzle, leaves no traces when it hits. Interesting question, though. Hope I satisfied you.
Yeah, I got another one.
I thought you might.
Suppose I was looking for a man to make a 2,200-yard cold bore shot. Who's alive that could do that?
Seems I heard about a shot like that being made not too long ago. Said the guy's name was Bob Lee Swagger. Never met the man, so I wouldn't know.
Hey casters and reloaders, let's see about making some paper patch bullets today. Alright folks, let's get into some key information beforehand before we start building the components to make these things. Number one we got to know is the bullet that we're making and basically the end product of the cartridge. This is tailored to your rifle or your barrel. So even though this is a 30-06 cartridge and there's other rifles out there that shoot it, it may not necessarily mean that it will work on that rifle or barrel. Again, like I said, we're going to be jamming these bullets 0.02 of an inch, so overall length is something you must know on your barrel that you're making this for. So since we're talking about barrels, there's also a couple things you got to know about the barrel that you're making these bullets for. Number one, you got to slug your barrel. Just like in cast bullets, we want to know our groove diameter. And when we go ahead and size these bullets, at the final overall size is going to be 1/1000 to 3/1000 over your groove diameter. One thing to know is paper itself has a little bit of spring back. So that's going to dictate your overall size of these bullets. And for me, my 30-06 rifle, I slugged mine, and they are at a .038. So my overall size is going to be the typical 309. So the second thing you want to know about your barrel is what kind of twist you have. Is it a left hand or a right hand? This is going to basically dictate which way you're going to roll your paper. It's kind of like say getting that Teflon tape and trying to thread it on the pipe, and you thread it on the wrong way and you go to screw it in and you notice it starts unraveling. Same concept. If you got a right hand twist, it's got to basically be a counterclockwise style wrap. If it's a left hand twist, clockwise style wrap. That way when it engages the rifling, it doesn't unravel and end up causing you to have leading. Basically the paper patch won't work. So that's one good thing you got to know, left hand or right hand twist. Alright, let's talk about the bullet selection. For me, for my 30-06, I chose a 230 grain Lee bullet. This is a tumble lube design with a boat tail. Now from what I've seen and read and also experienced from my uncle shooting back in the day, you want to get a cast bullet that has a nice streamline design to it, so it has a lot of area for you to work with, and also has a lot of grooves. Particularly I like the micro groove, and back then micro grooves weren't really around as much. There were maybe some tight grooved style cast bullets, and that's what my uncle shot. But he particularly liked those, and the reason why is because the paper itself really actually sticks on pretty good. It keeps it from moving, has some kind of area to grab and stick onto, and also gives a little bit of a divot, give a little bit of some lube around the paper patch when it's all finished and done, which I'll talk about later on. But paper patching bullets and a 30 cal, for me, I wouldn't go any smaller. Though I have paper patched a 243 before, which was kind of really frustrating. Anything smaller than the 30 cal, unless you got some really fine motor skills and patience, rolling the paper on is going to be kind of difficult. So 30 cal streamlined bullet with lots of grooves that are pretty tightly wound together would be ideal for wrapping paper. Alright, let's talk about alloy selection. And like I mentioned before, you're able to push some pretty soft lead bullets pretty hard. And if you plan on shooting big bore calibers, regular plumber's lead or soft lead is actually good up to 2000 FPS. If you plan on shooting past 2000 FPS, like I am, you're going to want to use air-cooled wheel weights. And if you plan on shooting past 2500 FPS, water quench wheel weights, and you're good to go. And the reason for this is so you kind of match your alloy to obturate inside your barrel for the pressures. Like I said, if these bullets are properly constructed and fitted, to your barrel, you could expect for it to perform as well or just as good as a full metal jacket. So that's a big plus about paper patching. So there you go, guys. Choose your alloy for your velocity you want. So the key component of making a paper patch bullet, the paper. And one of our viewers actually mentioned it in the comments of my last video, Uncle Jim, and he actually stated that paper is abrasive, and it is. Actually, paper's been used to actually fine polish samurai swords and sharp utensils, and so knowing that paper is abrasive, after shooting maybe 6 to 7 of these rounds, dry paper patch bullets, you will notice that your bore will be very, very shiny. It actually cleans your barrel, just like Uncle Jim mentioned. And this throws kind of concern for people. Now, does it wear out your rifle and your barrel? That's kind of controversial, because there's people out there that shot thousands and thousands of these paper patch bullets and don't have a problem. They still slug out the same diameter. And there's some out there that they're starting to get throat erosion. But there is ways to circumvent the situation. And basically, what I'll get into when we're done making these things is you're going to be lubing these bullets at the end. What I lube these cast lead bullets, paper patch, is some Lee A-locks. And like I said, this is the reason why I like the micro grooves. It kind of gets into the paper, and that will help give it some lubrication down the barrel and not be so abrasive. So knowing that, paper selection and choosing your paper, for me, I'm just using regular college ruled paper, which doesn't feel so abrasive. But if you guys don't know, transmission clutches and stuff are kind of made of the same properties, and that's what actually grabs your gear to the next gear. So but one thing you're going to want to know about the paper is how thick it is. Regular college ruled paper is about 25 thousandths of an inch. So that's going to kind of dictate, how, what size you're going to be using on your bullets. Because like I said, you're going to want to be 1/1000th over your groove diameter. But other than that, there's all kinds of different papers out there. They got tracing paper. There's wax paper, which I may actually try because it's, it already has the wax as a lubricant. There's regular construction paper. You pick your poison. and you know, see about what it does for your rifle. So what I'm using is regular college ruled paper, and I'm going to be making a template, and I'll show you how that works later on. Well, now that you got your components all picked out, you're kind of ready to make these things. The first thing that you're going to want to make is a jig. Now, this is just a simple piece of MDF wood that I cut a couple slots through with my table saw, and I put 2 little screws on there just to have a stopper. That way I can set the depth of my bullet. And basically what this is going to do is give a work area for you when you place your paper down. And you put your bullet in between the groove, it will lift the paper up so you could grab it. That way you can start rolling your paper nice and uniform. So making the jig is pretty easy. Like I said, you just grab yourself a piece of wood, MDF or whatever, throw a couple slots on there, and for me, I got a little stopper. That way I can put my bullet and set the depth just like that. Now that you got your jig set and made, got your components picked out, the next thing of course is making the cast bullets themselves. So go ahead and start casting your bullets, and once you're done doing that, you're going to want to go ahead and start sizing these things right away. For me, like I said, I'm going 1/1000ths over my groove diameter. I got lucky with the Lee push-through sizing die. Well, I would say unlucky and lucky at the same time. The Lee push-through sizing die is giving me a overall diameter of 0.3085, which will work perfect for these cast lead bullets. So, paper patch, of course. Like I say, go ahead and cast your batch and run them through the sizer beforehand. So one thing I forgot to mention is on these sizing dies, you don't necessarily need a undersized sizing die or a sizing die that matches your groove diameter. In the end, like I said, you're going to want to be only 1/1000ths over your groove diameter. Sizing them beforehand is going to help out with destroying your paper patch when you do your final sizing. Like I said before, paper itself, after you paper patch, there's actually a little bit of spring back to it, and when you go to size these things, I can actually show you right now, there's still a little bit of resistance, and it does spring back a little bit. So for instance, you cast your bullet and you paper patched it, and you go to size it, and you're trying to size at 313 thousandths down to a 309. The paper simply just won't survive in the die body. It's just going to rip right off, and so that's why I size them beforehand before rolling the paper on. But to tell you the spring back, this is a ready sized bullet to 309, and you can see there's still a little bit of resistance going through that sizing body, and though the paper did survive still. So like I said, you don't necessarily need a undersized sizing die. You can rock it out with what you got as long as it matches your groove diameter. Thousands over, of course. Alright, so we're ready to actually make the paper template itself. Here's a rule of thumb for these paper patch bullets. You're going to want to actually create a template that will reach all the way up to near the ogive, actually just past it. You want to be just past the ogive, and the reason for this is when you chamber this cartridge, it will engage the rifling and keep the paper nice and snug. That way when the process of firing happens, it go ahead and engages the rifling without getting destroyed. So I'm kind of testing this theory. I paper patched before, the ones that were working. Trying to wait till it focuses here. Yeah. Alright, anyways, it's just above the ogive, And the new paper patch bullets that I made a little batch of is below the ogive. There we go. So I'll see how well these perform. I got some ladder charges of that same powder charge. You know, one with above the ogive, one below, and I'll see if that affects accuracy. But a lot of casters that have succeeded in making their loads accurate, they paper patch just, like I said, just above the ogive, and you're going to want to leave a little bit of room at the end. That way, you have something to fold over or, you know, spin together. So let's go ahead and make these this template. What you're going to want to do is basically grab the paper and let's cut to length first. This is going to be the first template, but like I said, you're going to want to leave a little bit of room, so I'm going to use the first line here of the college ruled paper. So now that I got my strip cut out, and it's cut out to where it's just above the ogive, and I got a little bit of room on the bottom to fold over on the base. If you guys got a certain skill set in wrapping cigarettes and cigars, this is where it will come in handy. So what you want to do is tightly wrap your bullet, and twice. You're going to go around at least about twice. Like I said, we're just building the template for now. After that, get a nice sharp blade. For me, I'm using an X-Acto blade, and we're going to make a diagonal cut. Now, a lot of people will say to have a 45-degree cut. I don't think it really does matter in the long run. What we're going to try to accomplish is wrapping the bullet twice with the paper and having the ends butt up with each other. If the ends overlap, that will cause a third wrap at that one section, and when you go to size the bullet, it will crease the bullet and deform it. So that will inhibit your accuracy. So like I said, you're going to wrap it twice, and we're going to take a nice blade and cut a diagonal motion. Be careful here, guys. Like I said, I'm not, a little disclaimer, I'm not responsible if you take your digit off. So I'm just going to use the bench for now and do a nice diagonal cut. Alright. Once you do that, you're left with a, hopefully, little template like that. You can see right there in the middle. Right there. Alright, so now that you got your template cut out, hopefully it does what I said it'd do. It's butting up right there. So it's kind of hard to hold it up and get the camera to focus. There you go. And like I said, this is a one wrap right there. So, and it, you know, got enough to work with on the base. This is going to be the template, and we're going to use this as a measurement guide. A little parallelogram to do twice of this. So you're going to measure, you know, put this on a piece of paper. So we're going to use this as a little template to build it a little bit further. That way it has two wraps exactly. It's okay to have a little bit of a gap, and actually you're going to want to anyway, because when you go to wet this thing and wrap it on, it will stretch a little bit. So a little bit of a gap is actually okay. Alright, a little bit of arts and crafts time. So we're going to take your template, find a nice square portion of your piece of paper, mark the bottom right edge of your parallelogram so you have a working pen, the top right, basically all the corners. And after that, we are going to take a measurement, and we'll find that number and just double it. I mean, you can even do simple math, and you know, if you know your circumference, you know, 0.039, you go from there. But I'm dumbing it down for us people that are not really math savvy, I guess. I should be, right? Because I'm half Asian. Okay, 2.033. So this is probably going to be the most frustrating part of this whole process, and that's basically getting your paper to wrap and butt up, exactly twice. So even though you made a template, it's only going to give you a little starting point reference. You may have to kind of adjust and play with it and cut it a little more here and there until you get it right. So as far as I know, there really isn't a shortcut other than an Excel spreadsheet which I found online, in which you could kind of mess with the size of it and get it to where it matches. But what I did was kind of a little shortcut, and I don't know if you kind of see, but I'm overlapping just very, very slightly. So I'm just going to trim it off little by little with the X-Acto blade until I get it just right and have a little bit of a gap. And then that piece will be my template for making the paper patches. So like I said, at this point, when you're here at this part, patience and work on it, little arts and crafts, and you'll get there. So and this is the reason why I kind of like using the college ruled paper, because when you go to roll these things, the blue lines kind of help out with aligning your paper as you roll. That way it doesn't get all lopsided. But I got it to where the with a little bit of a with a what do you call it, fine edge and a X-Acto blade, I was able to dial these in to where the paper just butts up, if you can see that, with each other. There's a little bit of a gap which allows it to stretch when you wet these things and roll it on. So that is basically what the bullet will look like in the end. So I got a little bit of a gap on the bottom, and that's because I fold my my edges over. Some people twist and then they cut them off. I'm just going with what my uncle used to do, and he just folded them over, which will give you a bullet looking like this to protect the base. A little bit of a what do you call it? Exposed lead there, but that is protected. Another thing that some people also do is they add gas checks to it on the base. So far, like I said, I haven't seen leading. And in most 223 Full Metal Jacket bullets, the bases are exposed anyway, so I don't really see it being that crucial, other than let's just protect it if we got, if we're able to. So I got one template, and this is going to be what I'm going to use to make a bunch. As a shortcut, perhaps maybe we could scan this with the computer and copy paste a bunch of these into say a picture or Excel spreadsheet and print them out. That way you have a bunch of lines to kind of go off of and cut. I'm just going to go in the jank way and just use one and grab a bunch of pieces of paper, line them up, and go to town with an X-Acto blade and cut out maybe 10 pieces at a time. So alright, so we're almost ready to start rolling. Got my pieces of paper cut out. I got 11 pieces here, and what you're going to want to do is get your jig and set up your bullet. So on here you can see where my bullet stopped. I'm going to go just a little bit past. That way I line my paper up on the side of the jig here. It's going to pretty much give me that room on the bottom for me to fold over. So like I said, we're going to use this side of the jig to line up the paper. And this is where I was talking about knowing your twist on your barrel, if you have a right hand twist or left hand twist. So right hand twist, I'm counterclockwise, so I'm situating my paper on the right hand side, and I'm rolling upwards. Again, we're going to set up the bullet. We're doing this for uniformity, of course. You know, you want to wrap your paper as uniform as possible with all the others. So once you got your jig set up, you got your stopper in place, we're going to go ahead and get yourself a wet sponge. So one thing I forgot to mention was actually, before we even start making our template, is to grab a test piece of paper and dab it and see which way it curls. Naturally, the paper will want to curl a certain direction, and that's the direction you want to have your paper patch template. So when you start dabbing your paper patch, you'll notice it's starting to curl a certain way. For me, it's curling this way. So when you go to roll on your paper, let's say we're going to set it up just on the edge. Grab your bullet, use a stopper, grab the corner, and start rolling. You're going to get to a point to where it will start to tuck up underneath, and this is why I like the college ruled paper, because you just use a line and you just apply pressure and roll. You can use the sponge to keep the paper nice and tight, but you can see there, paper kind of turned transparent and it's nice and tight on there. At this point, you want to go ahead and fold in your bottom base, and what I like to do is give it a little dab and push it up, push it on a hard surface. Some people spin it. Like I said, I just put a dab and get it nice and flat. Go ahead and make a bunch of your bullets this way. If you notice it starting to unravel, you know, as it's standing up, just get, wet it down a little more, and it will eventually stick to itself. So, and once you are done rolling a bunch of your paper, you're going to want it to dry, preferably overnight, or if you want to speed up the process, you could use a hair dryer or something, and just dry it out. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to finish up these bullets, roll them out, get the paper all dried out, and I'll show you what's next. Alright, so I went ahead and just air dried these things with a heat gun, and you can see there that's nice and dry. Base is nice and covered, and the next thing we're going to want to do now is do the final sizing of the bullet. Grab yourself a nice case lube. You don't want to use any of the one shot or anything. You kind of want to use Imperial wax, or for me, I noticed that I noticed that Unique case lube is thin enough yet has enough lubricity to get these things sized properly. So go ahead and wipe yourself a generous amount onto the paper itself. Get down in the base also, and carefully place it in your sizing die. Give it a twist in the same direction as you're rifling, and push through your size nut. you're going to notice it's going to iron out the paper onto the bullet. You see a nice little sheen to it. So that right there is now a sized bullet. Hopefully is in the 309 range. Let's find out. Like I said, these things have a little bit of spring back. You see there, 309.5. So actually 310. So I got a little bit of a spring back. So I'm 2 thousandths over my bore diameter, which is fine. Like I said, 1 to 3 thousandths is what you want to be. That's what you got to do. Go ahead and run through your rest of your bullets. So be generous on your case lube, and this is going to pretty much iron on the paper onto your bullet. Do another one for you. Be all nice and shiny. You can kind of see the lube grooves there, kind of showing through the paper, and that's the base. So after you go ahead and size these things, and we're going to be adding some lube onto this whole bullet itself, and this is, like I said, to circumvent the what Uncle Jim said, the abrasiveness of paper. Alright guys, so this is the last and final step. It's basically to throw some sort of a lube onto the whole bullet itself. And for me, I'm just using the simple good old Lee Alox. There's people out there that are doing 50-50 mix of beeswax and Vaseline, which is another option. I just find that the Lee Alox with maybe a little bit of mineral spirits inside is just as good. But go ahead and do your tumble lube method. You know, for me, I'm just using one of these old mason jars, and you're going to end up with a lubed patched bullet, and this will be ready to go ahead and load up on your cartridge. So that's basically the step of what these steps I'm doing to create these paper patch bullets. It's very simple. I'm not a pro yet. I'm a self-proclaimed YouTube pro, I guess, but this is basically what I've been doing, and it's been working so far with the 30-06. Hopefully I kind of hinted on the key facts. Basically, you know, knowing your groove diameter, knowing if you have a left hand or right hand twist, which is going to dictate how you roll the patches on, your alloy you plan on choosing, and the paper you plan on choosing. Like I said, we're going to be jamming the lands 2 thousandths of an inch. When we roll the paper onto the bullet, you want the paper itself kind of, you know, overhanging the ogive, maybe about a 1/16 of an inch. That way it jams the lands, and when the bullet gets fired, it doesn't allow the gases to shred the, or basically allow the bullet to move and then start unraveling the paper. So that's basically, in a nutshell, you know, paper patching. I mean, you could go ahead and get your OCD going like most casters do, and just come up with all kinds of other ideas on how to get these things actually performing better. Like I said, this is just the basic 2-wrap patch. There's others out there who are doing a 1-wrap on the base, 2-wrap on the, you know, near the ogive. I mean, that's more of an advanced technique. Like I said, I haven't really shot, you know, paper patch bullets a lot. I just kind of helped my uncle when I was younger roll these things on. So again, on the next video, guys, stay tuned. I'm going to be showing you guys how to case prep to accept a paper patch bullet. There is a little bit of a step to it, a little bit different compared to how we just regularly load, you know, full metal jackets or even cast lead bullets. It's not just about flaring the mouth, case mouth. So other than that, guys, I really appreciate you watching. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. If you guys like this video, go ahead and throw a like for me. That will help me out as a content creator. Other than that, guys, stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.